It's not easy. I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago who was interested in the church. And they said, well, what do you really do in there? People don't know that don't go to church. They don't know what we talk about. They don't know what we do. I mean, just the nature of being a church is a barrier for some people. And then we have all these other barriers that we put up, invisible barriers. We have behavioral codes and dress codes and belief codes and all these things. So I think one of the things that we need to be committed to this year is tearing down those walls, those invisible barriers, inviting in an open atmosphere, reaching out to more and more people who need what we have in this congregation, building bridges as Jesus was a bridge himself. That's how he defined his ministry in the book of Corinthians. God was in Christ, reconciling the world unto himself, building a bridge to God. And he has committed to us the ministry of building bridges between people and God, between people and each other, building bridges of understanding, of interfaith understanding, educating people, networking with people of different faith traditions. This is what our mission is here. This is what our stated mission is. We went through a kind of intense strategic planning process, and we reaffirmed this for our church. This is what we're about. This is a big part of our vision, and it's so needed in the world we live in, this kind of religion. So I see a circle instead of a dot. I see a bridge instead of a moat, and I see a cross instead of a ladder. And for me, and believe me, we affirm all faith traditions. We have the symbols of the various faith traditions right here on our pulpit. So you know where I stand on that. But for me, the cross is still the most powerful and potent symbol of God's self-giving love. No greater love has a man than this, than he lay down his life for his friend. A cross, not a ladder. A ladder asks the question, who has the best religion? Who has the highest religion? It has to do with power and authority and all those other things. But a cross starts at the bottom. If you want to be first, you have to be last, and so forth. We got to move away from the conquest and domination model of religion. Who's on top? Who's got the best religion? Oh, my God's better than your God. My religion's better than your religion. And it's interesting that a lot of the theological development of religion, and Christianity included, was aimed at creating a position of superiority. It wasn't so much about theology. Well, my Messiah is better than your Messiah. After all, my Messiah was born of a virgin. My Messiah walked on water. My God did this. It's about creating dominance. Not so much about theology. Now, it seems to me the cross as a symbol flies in the very face of that approach to religion. The cross is not about superiority but service. It's not about domination but sacrifice. It's not about conquest but surrender. Ouch, we don't like that word in our society. Surrender has a bad connotation. What I'm talking about is the surrender of our hearts, the surrender of our minds, the surrender of our wills, the surrender of our agenda as a religious community to a higher purpose, a higher power. It's not just, we talk about Christology and we talk about the cross, we're not just talking about a creed, a system of beliefs. We're talking about the way we relate to our fellow human beings. We're talking about an attitude of compassion, of humility, and of love. As Paul said, I've been crucified with Christ, and the life that I now live, I live by faith in the Son of God, who died for me and gave himself for me. And that then is the way that I live. That determines my attitude. So it's not just about a creed or a system of beliefs. It's about a way to live. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth and service is our prayer. So I think all of this is the kind of religion the world desperately needs today. To me, it's the only one that makes sense. It's the only one that makes sense in the world we live in. Why there isn't more of it, I don't know. I can't tell you how many times I had people come here or visited during the season, and they'll say to me, gosh, I wish there was a congregation like this where I lived. Well, why isn't there? Why isn't there? Just to quote the prophet as I go, and I know it's not totally accurate hermeneutic. I mean, it's not quite technically correct, the interpretation, I know that, but the prophet said, without a people, without a vision, the people perish. Without a vision, the people perish. I like to say, without a vision, the people flounder. It's so important. It's so important to begin with the end in mind, to understand what it is that we're striving for as a congregation, as a people, as a church. And by the grace of God, we'll get there.